Teresa Joy coming to you live from my house. Happy Tuesday. Here we go again with this light. How do we fix the light and shine the truth onto the lies? So today I want to talk about corruption. I'm going to wait till more people come. Again, I'm live right now, so I pause in the beginning. If you're actually, I don't know why I'm talking like that. If you're watching later on, just skip forward a bit because wait a bit for people to join me. But hey, I want to talk real quick about something in the meantime. Check out Jordan's Twitter account. He just showed me this commercial that they'll be airing tomorrow on all the conservative networks, including Fox. And it's about how wonderful immigrants are and how this country was made from immigrants and how immigrants, I'm not lying to you. This is what this commercial is, and it is a conservative right-wing group that made this commercial, and it literally they say in it that immigrants will make America great again. What kind of backwards, crazy ass shit are they pulling? I don't know. I mean, I guess Republicans, we had it wrong the whole time. Republicans actually like immigrants. It was just a total misunderstanding by the crazy liberals, making the Republicans look like nasty people who want to, separate children from their parents. So anyways, and they have a website. Oh shoot. I didn't write down the group, but at the end of the commercial, you'll see at the bottom right-hand side, it's the name of the group. And I, of course, Googled it and looked into it. And they're this, again, right-wing conservative website who has this whole website. It's about how much they love immigrants and how they want DACA reform to be passed. And it says something like, 90% of Trump supporters would vote for him again if he passed some kind of a reform that favored DACA recipients. Just madness. Complete, I don't understand the angle. I don't understand it. So anyways, check it out again. That's on, irony, hypocrisy. That's on Jordan's Twitter account. He has the actual commercial, which will air tomorrow on Fox and other news outlets. So today I want to talk about how Raytheon is profiting from the deaths of thousands of civilians in the Middle East. I want to talk about how the new camps that they're setting up for the immigrants they have contaminated water. So on top of everything else, they're going to be, giving the people contaminated water, which is very bad, especially for the children because of the PFSAs in the water. And I also want to talk about absolute atrocity and and of course, when we talk about politics, we're talking about policies that affect people, innocent people who have nothing to do with them. So we're talking about, Trump became president, he passed a zero tolerance policy. All of a sudden we have these people, these children who are being separated from their parents and being put in cages. Well, in this instance, we have two of the most biodiverse wildlife parks in the world are now opening up to oil. And these wildlife refugees, well, they're called parks. These wildlife parks have some endangered species there, and they're home to some of the last rainforests on the planet, and they are opening that up to oil, and that is directly related to the United States and this new administration. So very sad. I think about the animals that live there. They just survive. They are put on this planet. They're just living. They're raising their young. They're innocent and they're minding their own business. And here we have Trump and his administration pushing fossil fuels, and these animals are going to die. And no one gives a shit. I do. You do. Let's start with Raytheon. Let's start with tea. It's 100 degrees outside, but I need my tea. It's really hot out. I don't know if you're on the East Coast. Enjoy it, right? But also, it's very sad. I went to Toronto yesterday. I saw so many homeless people and ambulances. It's very sad. And don't walk your dog in the heat. They can't wear sneakers like you. It actually hurts their paws. This was an actual warning from the SPCA. Okay, so Raytheon's these are two headlines that basically say it all. Raytheon's profits boom alongside civilian deaths in Yemen. Company stock soars as bystanders are killed by Raytheon rockets. So if you don't know what Raytheon is a major U.S. defense contractor which manufactures weapons for our military, for other people's military, and commercial electronics for military use. So this is a little backstory to set up what happened here. In June 2017, Trump offered to sell over 104,000 air-to-ground munitions, which includes CBU-12 bombs, along with 4 other U.S.-made guided bombs to Saudi Arabia. In November, Saudi Arabia agreed to buy $7 billion worth of precision-guided munitions from Raytheon and Boeing in the coming years. So, unfortunately, those weapons have been used to kill civilians, thousands of civilians. So here we have the American politicians saying, oh, what's happening in Syria with the civilians being killed is an atrocity, and we're going to bomb the shit out of Syria because a hospital was bombed and 7 people were killed. So we're going to bomb Syria to, be the heroes to these civilians. Meanwhile, the U.S. is supplying weapons to Saudi Arabia, who's going in and literally wiping out thousands of civilians in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen all the time. So it's a bunch of bullshit. The United States does not care what's happening to the civilians in the Middle East. The United States takes money. The politicians take large amounts of money from Raytheon, who in turn, then the United States sells Raytheon's bombs to Saudi Arabia to kill civilians. So now we're seeing their stocks just skyrocket. The more deaths there are in the Middle East, the higher the stocks for Raytheon go. And in turn, the fat cats in Washington, the politicians who all pass these policies, who take campaign contributions from Raytheon, they are raking in the money as well. So, the price of innocent lives has resulted in Raytheon stocks skyrocketing. So this is what Raytheon contributed to U.S. politicians. In the 2016 election cycle, over $3 million in campaign donations and $11 million in lobbying. That was what Raytheon contributed during 2016. Raytheon contributed already in the 2018 elections to over $2 million in campaign contributions to Democrats and Republicans, and spent over $6 million in lobbying so far. And I want to be very clear. This is going to Democrats and Republicans. This year, it was like a 50-50 split, what they were giving. And back in 2016, actually the biggest recipient of funds by Raytheon was Hillary Clinton by far. Hers was like 80,000 something. Trump did receive a lot from Raytheon back then, but not as much as Hillary. And here's the thing. Trump held stocks in Raytheon prior to becoming president, and there is no evidence and no proof so far that he has sold those stocks. So more than likely, Trump still holds stocks in Raytheon. And when Trump dropped those bombs on Syria to defend the 7 people, I'm sorry, I think it was like 11, that died in the hospital, he spent, when he dropped the 59 Tomahawk missiles on the Syrian air base, that was $60 million. Those all came from Raytheon. So, of course, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You give me campaign donations, I'll make sure I drop your bombs and use your bombs and sell your bombs. But also, if Trump had stocks, or still has stocks in Raytheon, he just spent, dropped $60 million in Raytheon bombs. So, there you go. Now let's get into what's happening with these people and just some small examples. A Raytheon missile killed 23 people attending a wedding in northern Yemen in April. Those bombs came from the factory in Arizona, in the United States. Those bombs made in the United States were dropped on civilians in Yemen, killing 23 people at a wedding. A wedding. The groom and the bride survived, and then the majority of their family members died. Just please try to realize what I'm saying here. It's not a TV show. It's not a video game. This is real. Imagine that was your niece or nephew or child, and your family, your entire family was just wiped out. 3 generations of people wiped out because some asshat in the United States sold a bomb to some psychos in Saudi Arabia who decided to drop it on a civilians and erase their existence. They're gone. Like that the whole family. This is the worst part. So the Guardian reported that the majority of casualties were women and children. Survivors described how jets circled the bombing site after the attack, preventing first responders from reaching the victims. So now not only have they dropped a bomb on this wedding party, but they're circling this area after they drop the bomb to make sure that the medical help does not get to those people. That is cruel. That is a violation of human rights. That is a crime. But because the politicians are the ones who make the rules, the army can kill innocent people whenever they want and get away with it. You have someone in the west side of Buffalo who comes from a majority African-American neighborhood selling marijuana. He could go to jail for life. He could go to jail and have bail so high that he can't get out. And he doesn't even get a hearing for 3 years. Yet you have government officials who take thousands of dollars from Raytheon, go kill, 23 people at a wedding party, and nothing happens. That has to stop. The only way we can get that to stop is to really vote progressives into positions of power in the United States. And I'm talking about people who do not take campaign donations from large companies and corporations, because if you're dealing with politicians who are bought off, they are puppets, and you have evil people pulling the strings as to what's going to happen, not only in the United States, but in this planet. So this is the worst part. So after 23 people were killed at this wedding by this Raytheon bomb that was made in Arizona, 4 days after it was April 22nd attack on the wedding party, the company Raytheon reported quarterly earnings had risen to $63 million. They reported 4 days after they dropped that bomb that their quarterly earnings have raised 63 million. A few more examples, and this is just a few examples because we could sit here all day. Go to the Air Wars website. It tracks all of the civilian killings in U.S.-backed air raids in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. And why should we care? Why should we care? Well, I hope you do care. I hope you do care about people in other countries. I hope you do care about people you'll never meet and you don't know. I hope you care about them the way you would care about your neighbor and your own family. Because I don't know what else we're on this planet to do if we're not here to love each other and make sure that we all have a safe, happy existence on this planet for the one life we have. Maybe you believe in reincarnation one way or another. I care about people I don't know and I'll never meet, and I really hope that other people do as well. But it doesn't seem like it, especially on the conservative side. So Saudi-led forces used Raytheon bomb to kill. They dropped a bomb on a funeral. They killed more than 140 people. This was in the city of Sana'a. Again, this was in Yemen, and I'm just talking about Yemen right now, just to simplify this video. A Raytheon bomb was dropped on a funeral, killing 140 civilians at a funeral. As of March, Amnesty International had documented 36 coalition airstrikes that appear to have violated international humanitarian law, many of which may amount to war crimes. These have resulted in 513 civilian deaths, including 157 children, and 379 civilian injuries. And what I'm saying here is, I'm just talking about Amnesty International has investigated and called 36 of these coalition airstrikes a war crime. And that would be against Saudi Arabia, but Raytheon cannot be held accountable because there's a clause that says that Raytheon doesn't know how these bombs are going to be used. And they might be, and it literally said the bombs might be used for their appropriate purpose. I'm like, what? I suppose they mean to kill terrorists, not civilians. So Raytheon cannot be held accountable for the fact that thousands of civilians are being killed with their bombs because they don't know that that's going to happen. They just feel like they're going to be used properly to kill terrorists. Well, I mean, if you're looking at the past 3 years, go to Air Wars and you can see the amount of deaths. Well, I guess Raytheon should know that after 3 years, their bombs are being used to kill more civilians than terrorists. Way more. The numbers are way higher that the civilians are being killed by their bombs. But they just keep selling them, and it's okay. They get off scot-free. So they've bombed hospitals. They've bombed entire blocks. If they say that there's one terrorist on a roof in a neighborhood full of people with apartment buildings, full of families, children, elderly, they bomb with drones even that building to get that one terrorist on top. And they're killing, and this isn't hypothetical. Story after story. Go to Air Wars. Someone's actually calling my landline. Rare. So they're taking out entire blocks just to say that they are killing one terrorist who's on a roof, killing children, entire families. So at a busy market in southwest Yemen, 68 people were killed, including 8 children, 32 injured. Again, Raytheon bomb sold by the United States to Saudi Arabia. And this is a quote: Tuesday's bombings killed more people than this week's terrorist attacks in Afghanistan and Cairo combined. One bombing killed more civilians than terrorists had killed in 1 week in 2 different countries. That is how it goes every day with these bombs, with America the Great. And everybody in America is so safe. Imagine it was America who was getting bombs dropped on them. Their children, their family. Oh, this neighborhood got wiped out. This neighborhood got wiped out. Rubble. How can we sit here in the United States so safe in our homes and just be so clueless and careless? And I know you're not, but you know a lot of people are. They don't care. They don't care about this. They love Trump. Love Trump. Trump's approval rating went up. It's the highest it's ever been. They love him. Thousands are dying in the Middle East. They could care less. If it's not me, it's not happening. That's the mentality. Minimum civilians killed in by coalition airstrikes in Iraq, in Syria, 6,321, and that's not including Yemen. That is minimum, not including Yemen, and that is U.S.-aided airstrikes. 6,000, over 6,000. Another quote: They are also another stark reminder of the huge humanitarian cost of nearly 3 years of air attacks on Yemen by the Saudi-led coalition using U.S. arms against a rebel force. That sums it up. So the U.S. military has drastically stepped up their air campaign in Yemen in 2017. conducting more than 6 times as many airstrikes than 2016. So Trump comes in, all of a sudden, from 2016 to 2017, we have 6 times more the amount of airstrikes. And you remember his campaign promise: bomb them, bomb the shit out of them, bomb the hell out of them. What did he say? Bomb the hell out of them, kill them all, take their oil. That's what he said. That's what he's doing. But he's killing civilians. He's killing way more civilians than terrorists. What is the use of wiping out an entire country in order to save people from terrorists if you've killed all the people? Then you can go on Fox News and say, we reclaimed the city. We reclaimed the country from the terrorists. But all the civilians are dead. They wouldn't say that part. It's all in rubble. The sanitation system is destroyed, so there's outbreak of cholera. Probably 1 million people are going to die, they estimated. Mostly elderly and children, the weak people. No one's going to say that on the news. They're going to say, Trump ended the reign of the jihad in the Middle East. He killed everyone. What's the use of saving? You're killing everyone. I don't think that they would have killed as many people as these airstrikes are. I'm talking about, the terrorist groups. I just don't even like that word. So the increase was a result of Trump's policy change that took place almost immediately in January 2017. Soon after Trump's administration took office, it declared part of Yemen, as well as neighboring Somalia, to be areas of active hostilities, giving the U.S. military more leeway to target terrorists from the air and on the ground without White House approval. So balls to the wall, just bomb away, bomb the shit out of them. So this is where it gets it was sad, but here we have now the companies profiting. The war has been terrible on the Yemeni civilians, but very lucrative for shareholders of the defense contracting giant Raytheon. Headquarters are located in Massachusetts, so American made. The Saudi coalition civilian attacks have coincided with a sharp rise in Raytheon share prices, prompting human rights lawyers to ask, is the $55 billion firm aiding and abetting war crimes? Absolutely. But the rules are made so that it's not a crime. When the war started in March 2015, the company's stock was selling at $108 per shares. By June 2016, the share price had risen to $210.70 per share. That is a 94% increase in 3 years. So bombing the hell out of the Middle East resulted in a 94% increase in Raytheon shares in 3 years. The Washington Alliance with Saudi Arabia has fueled the company's growth. And it isn't just Trump. Definitely, like I said, Trump stepped up everything. We're talking, what was it? The deal he made with them? It was millions. I can't even say it anymore. 55 million. No, that's not it. Sorry. The Trump deal was, $7 billion. Okay, so this is a lot more, but I am going to mention Obama because he doesn't get a free pass on this. In 2015, the Obama administration approved the sale of 4,020 GBU-12 Paveway 2 guided bombs to Saudi Arabia. But we're talking 4,000 bombs in comparison to 104,000, and then an additional $7 billion worth of precision guided munitions in the upcoming years. So, yeah, the Trump campaign has definitely stepped it up. The Trump administration, like I said, $7 billion worth. So Raytheon sales rose just over $7 billion in 2016 to around $7.8 billion in 2017. The U.S. military action strike that Trump ordered was 59 Tomahawk missiles in Syria, $60 million, all going to Raytheon, which he may have stocks in. So very sad. I guess we can see why we're dropping so many bombs, right? We can see that. So the rich can get richer and the innocent can die. And that seems drastic, but it's very drastic for these people because they're dying. And they're beautiful, innocent human beings who have nothing to do with American politics. You know why Saudi Arabia is attacking Yemen? Because Saudi Arabia wants to build a pipeline that runs through Yemen to Europe. Because right now Russia is the main provider of oil to Europe. And Saudi Arabia wants to get a piece of that. So that's why Russia is trying to protect Syria. Not because they care, but because they don't want that pipeline being built through those countries. Saudi Arabia wants that pipeline built. The United States wants that pipeline built. So the United States has joined with Saudi Arabia because we're talking about the petrodollar. Anytime anyone buys any gas from Saudi Arabia, they convert it to American dollars first, and then a portion of that money goes to the United States. It's about oil. It's about fossil fuels. We don't even fucking need them anymore. We don't even need them. As long as this administration is here, and as long as we have other corporate shills in positions of power in the United States, because the United States is one of the most powerful countries in the world, the rest of the planet will be affected by our vile greed. Sheer greed. This is our responsibility to make sure that these politicians don't stay in power, because people are dying. Not only people, the planet is dying. Animals are dying. So, segue to my next piece. 2 of the most biodiverse wildlife parks on Earth are now open to drilling. These are both located in South Africa. But how does this have to do with the United States? I did a little digging, and I found in November of 2017, the U.S. Energy Secretary Rick Perry traveled to South Africa to tout the U.S. and South Africa's new partnership. They are interested in extending the electric grid to serve the 600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa who do not have power. Now, although this does not have to be fueled by fossil fuels, that's what they're pushing, fossil fuels. So, U.S. Energy Secretary Rick Perry, under the Trump administration, has now a joint partnership with South Africa to build electricity, to build an electric grid fueled by fossil fuels. And all of a sudden, South Africa opens up 2 of the most biodiverse wildlife parks on the planet to oil drilling. Perry, again, U.S. Energy Secretary Rick Perry, suggested that increasing fossil fuel use to spread electricity across Africa would help prevent sexual assaults. That is what he's running on. Well, if we use fossil fuels to bring electricity to 600 million people, women will no longer be sexually assaulted in South Africa. Responding to protesters who yelled that fossil fuels were causing climate change and killing people in poor countries, he said, "Let me tell you, where people are dying in Africa, it's because of the lack of energy they have there. And it's going to take fossil fuels to push power out into these villages in Africa." Since taking the helm at the Energy Department, Perry has said he doubted the scientific consensus that carbon dioxide was causing climate change. Dramatic, ridiculous, sick, twisted. Propaganda. Okay, what's happening now with these parks? What are these parks? What is going to suffer and die? It's dark. The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo, I will refer to as DRC henceforward, has confirmed that parts of the Virunga National Park, one of the most biodiverse places on the planet, and the Salanga National Park will be opened up for oil exploration and drilling, just like all the other parks in the United States that Trump is opening up to oil and drilling. These parks are home to mountain gorillas, chimpanzees, African forest elephants, and other rare species, some of which are soon to be extinct. And they could be welcoming some new visitors, oil companies. Perfect. So the Virunga National Park is about the size of a small country. We're not talking about marine land. I don't even know if you know what marine land is here. We're not talking about a tiny park. It is the size of a small country. That land has been set aside for the rainforest, for the animals. God help us, this planet belongs to more than just friggin' humans. Why can't we leave anything for the other creatures that inhabit this country, this planet, or trees? Oh my God, guess what? We need them. We need those trees. Yes, we sure do, because carbon dioxide kills, but not according to the energy secretary. Trump's energy secretary apparently has nothing to do with global warming. So it is the size of a small country, over 7,800 square miles in size, and encompasses rich forests, savannas, swamps, lake shores, lava plains, active volcanoes, and glaciatic mountains. And all of this is going to be opened up for oil drilling because of the decisions in the United States. It is regularly cited as one of the most ecologically diverse places on the earth. It's home to a quarter of the world's critically endangered mountain gorillas, along with two other species of great ape, the eastern lowland Guaras gorilla, the chimpanzees. It also holds a range of other rare species, such as the okapi, African buffalo, Central African lions, and the Congo peacock, all which are now open to being slaughtered because of the Trump administration and their desire to continue to push fossil fuels. So how is this connected? Well, people in Yemen are getting bombed because they want to build a pipeline. These wildlife parks are now open to oil and gas drilling in Africa because they want fossil fuels, because the United States went in there and set up a deal with them. Salanga National Park, Africa's largest and the world's second largest tropical rainforest reserve, is home to just as many environmental features and animals as the other park. All of these natural resources means that the area is a hot property. The DRC has been subject to rising amount of instability and conflict in recent years, with oil companies, governments, militia groups, poachers, and environmentalists all having a vested interest in the region, all for different reasons, clearly. And as a result, at least 12 anti-poaching rangers were killed this year. So they've closed the parks down. They're no longer open to the public until 2019. So evil is everywhere, and it comes in every form, whether they're trying to exploit gas or trying to exploit animals. How many things on this planet need to be protected? And I understand, I know that these poachers are, they're heartless and they're gross. And there's no excuse, but they're trying to survive. They come from a country where they have nothing. I mean, the ones who are actually doing the poaching. Now, the higher ups, they're just rich people who don't give a shit. And the more they have, the happier they are. But that's still no excuse. And I really could care less what happens to poachers. I mean, I don't know, do to them what they do to the animals. Sorry. The last time oil companies threatened to exploit the part of the Congo basin, especially in Virunga, it was met with this huge opposition by environmental activists. So what happened was in 2014, the British oil and gas company SOCO International performed seismic testing in Virunga, and although they let their license run out in 2015, and that was due to the fierce opposition by the people trying to protect the land, during the operations, this is how gross people are when it comes to oil and gas, They paid $42,000 to a Congolese army major to basically kill or use violence to intimidate people who were opponents to the fossil fuel industry. So they found out that SoCo gave this army major $42,000 to, hey, if there's a protester there who's against the fossil fuel industry, who's trying to stop this deal from going down, whatever, kill him, threaten his family. Here's $42,000. Again, this wasn't the United States. This was SoCo. That's a British oil company. But since then, they, because they were busted, they were reported on. This was revealed by the New York Times. So SoCo has since pledged to remain out of Virunga and all other UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But again, how could these people from SoCo, this oil and gas company, it's discovered we gave this Congolese army leader $42,000 to go do whatever he has to do to people who were protesting fossil fuels, and nothing happened to them. There was they didn't, get arrested. They didn't get fined, nothing. Just, oh, wow, you gave somebody $42,000 to kill fossil fuel protesters. Well, bad. Just stay out. Okay, sorry. And again, you have people who are selling marijuana in, low-income neighborhoods, and they get sent to jail for life. America. So, however, the DRC government has consistently defended its right to authorize drilling for oil and gas anywhere in the country and maintain that they are aware of protecting their country's biodiversity. The World Bank's Michael Tomlin, who works for the World Bank, said, off-grid solar implies a much lower cost burden for governments aspiring to expand basic services to households in the nearer term compared to the extension of the grid using fossil fuels. So right there, you have someone who works for the World Bank. This is not an environmentalist. This is not a person who is a tree hugger. This is a dude who works for the World Bank. He's financially assessing the situation. He published a report. He said, off-grid solar would be way better to use in South Africa than fossil fuels if you care so much about these 600 million people and you really want to bring electricity to them to stop rape. Fossil fuels isn't the way to go. It's solar. They don't give a shit. The United States is pushing fossil fuels. So again, wrapping it up, United States goes into South Africa in 2017. They strike up a deal with them. They're partners now. I care so much. I don't know why. Trump's energy secretary cares so much about the people in Africa. He wants to stop people from being raped. Hey, I'm going to go to South Africa and we're going to put up an electricity grid so 600 million people are safe from being raped. But we're going to use oil and gas. And all of a sudden, South Africa opens up the 2 most biodiverse wildlife parks in the world for oil and gas drilling. This is what happens when you put someone like Trump in a position of power in the United States. Don't do it. But people are so narrow-minded. They didn't care. All they listened to was this hate propaganda. Oh my God, the Mexicans are coming. Put up the wall. Trump's going to put up the wall. Oh, vote for Trump. Vote for Trump. Protect us from the Mexicans. Trump kills people in Syria. Trump kills people in Yemen. Trump kills people, civilians in Saudi Arabia. No, he doesn't. He's best friends with Saudi Arabia. He's wreaking havoc everywhere he turns. It's all in the name of money. All in the name of money. And he's got these people, his base is so brainwashed. It's like they don't even see him as a politician. They're fans. It's like a cult. I'm sorry. I'm definitely not going to connect with any conservatives today. I'm going to get a lot of hate. It's atrocious. It's atrocious. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care. Like, I hate the majority of Democrats as well. If anybody's doing this, I'm going to talk about it. This is disgusting. So, this is what's happening. Do you care about other people on the planet? Do you care about animals on the planet? Do you care about the environment? Do you care about the future of the planet? Because these men, this administration, and other corporate shills are waging war on everything, anything in their way that gets between them and oil and fossil fuels, when the truth is we don't need them anymore. We don't need them. We got to get rid of this guy. We got to be careful who we vote for. And I'm sorry, if you think Kamala Harris is a good vote, please do your research. Watch my other video on Kamala Harris. She's a corporate shell. She takes money from Wall Street. She took money from a bank, and then when it came time for her to prosecute Steve Mnuchin, who had foreclosed illegally on thousands of people, low-income families, single mothers, elderly people. Steve Mnuchin, his company at that time, when she was a prosecutor, she was the district attorney, they foreclosed on thousands of low-income and people, and she was supposed to prosecute him. He could have gone to jail. That bank could have gone to jail, but she dropped it. She didn't. Why? Because she was getting campaign donations from Steve Mnuchin's bank. So don't think Kamala Harris is a good choice. I don't care. She's posing as this great savior and everybody's buying it. Do the digging. That is not going to work. Yes, she's not as bad as Trump, but if we want to get out of these situations where we're bombing the shit out of other countries and we're killing people and the environment, she's not the way to go. Just like Hillary Clinton wasn't the way to go. And let me repeat, Hillary Clinton took $80,000 from Raytheon in 2016. $80,000 in Raytheon from Raytheon. We are getting crazy. It's crazy today. I'm getting worked up. Last one. Do you remember I did a report 2 or 3 weeks ago about how 3 states, there was a huge report that came out about how military bases in 3 states were polluting the water supply for the entire state with PFAS. Because they were using these foams on the military bases, was getting into the water and literally polluting the water in 3 states. This came out, this report came out, and then also it came out that there were emails from Scott Pruitt's office and the Trump administration saying, keep this quiet, don't tell anyone, okay? So this sort of ties into that. What I'm saying is military bases have their water is full of PFAS, which is poison, okay? It poisons water. So what's happening now? Immigrant children in U.S. detention camps could face yet another health hazard, contaminated water. So put 2 and 2 together. As the Department of Defense begins housing detainees on military bases, the children could face yet another health risk, contaminated drinking water from toxic chemicals common on military bases, water contamination. We died for a minute there. Okay, so water contamination by a group of toxic man-made chemicals known as PFAS is a problem on military bases. The military's use of PFAS-based foams to quickly douse fires as part of their training exercises. So that's why they're using these foams on the military bases. They're training exercises, starting huge fires. They're using these foams, and then this is getting into the water system. An unnamed official from the Department of Health and Human Services told Washington Post last month that the agency was planning to visit 4 military bases to assess their sustainability as detention centers. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis confirmed that. And here's the kicker. The Sierra Club then released a paper saying that at least 5 military sites that they're considering to house these immigrants on are contaminated with PFAS, and they have been reported to be under consideration by the Defense Department to house children. So not only are we taking them away from their family, and now they're back with their family, and everybody's like, yay, Trump's a savior. He has such a big heart. He said he doesn't want to see children separated from their parents. Okay, let me just side note that there's still 2,000 children that were separated from their parents under Trump's administration that they have not reconnected with their families yet. So anyways, now these families are going to be put on these military bases that have contaminated water. And you can bet they're not going to be getting bottled water. This is the Sierra Club executive director Mike Brune said, holding children on bases with drinking water potentially contaminated by toxic compounds would compound the tragedy of Trump's immigration policy. According to a recent released report on the safety of the chemical, even places deemed to have to be safe may actually have toxic water, which would be more hazardous for children than adults living and working on the bases. These chemicals are also found in nonstick pans and flame-retardant carpets. They have been linked to liver, kidney, and thyroid disease, cancer, infertility, and the development issues of fetuses and infants. And I interviewed a girl, and it's here, and this is what I was working on for like 3 years. Where I'm from in Buffalo, New York, is like we're toxic to the T. Everything about Buffalo, the Western New York is toxic, and everyone's sick. But the one area is by these factories, Dunlop, and the one factory manufactures the Teflon that has the PFAS. And so if you go back, you can watch an interview that I posted here where this girl lives right next to the factory, this woman, and her sister is 20 years old, in her 20s. She's completely disabled. She wears diapers. She can't speak. She makes noises like a fire engine. That's from the toxins. That's what they're going to be giving to these children now on these military bases. And in that area by that factory that produces the PFAS in Buffalo, New York, but a huge amount of people do have neurological problems. There's a high number of infant deaths and stillbirths, and children are being born with birth defects. So here's where the EPA gets shitty, and this is Trump's EPA now. The EPA is no longer protection. There's no protection with the EPA. So recently released government report from the U.S. Center of Disease Control and Prevention suggested that PFAS standards for drinking water should be set to 7 to 11 parts per trillion. That's about 3 to 4 times lower than the EPA's detection limit, and about 7 to 10 times lower than the EPA's recommended health advisory. So the EPA now, Trump's EPA, Scott Pruitt, they've become completely corrupt, just like the entire administration. So the EPA's accepted limit is 7 times lower. I mean, that's like, anyways, I just told you. Do the math. The EPA is just full of shit, saying that this is the amount of PFAS that is allowed in water and still be okay for the children. Well, the Center of Disease Control said, holy shit, absolutely not. And just like the lead issue, there should be no lead in water. No amount of lead in water is safe for children or adults. No amount of PFAS in the water is safe for children or adults. But the EPA comes up with this great number saying, this amount of PFAS in your water is fine. Oh, what's a little PFAS gonna do? It's fine. You're just gonna pee it out. No, you're gonna get cancer, kidney disease, or birth defects. And now the children in these detention camps are going to suffer the same fate as all the other people around the country who live near these factories that also produce PFAS, and the people in these live around these military bases that use these foams that are putting PFAS into the water, which the American government is trying to hide from the American people. And Google it. This isn't a conspiracy. The paperwork came out, the emails came out, the reports came out. The military is polluting and poisoning the water in 3 different states, including New York. So around this area, I'm in New York. Well, I live in New York. I'm from New York. And they're trying to hide it. So the report was so damning that it was called a public relations nightmare by the Trump administration, which tried to suppress its publication. The CDC uploaded the report to the agency's website in June after bipartisan calls to release it. So straight up trying to hide this report. A public relations nightmare. Oh, this is a public relations nightmare. We can't let people know they're being poisoned. Let's hide it. Good. The Department of Health and Human Services, which includes the CDC, said that in an email statement to Popular Science, that in addition to the 2 military bases named by James Mattis, which was the Dice Air Force Base in Texas, the Dice Air Force in Texas is also being evaluated as a potential temporary shelter for unaccompanied children. And that is also an air base that has been deemed by the Sierra Club to have incredibly high PFAS in the water. So that's how they're choosing where these kids are going to go. Let's just put them on the bases where there's contaminated water. The Trump administration's zero tolerance policy of separating children from their parents sparked public outcry, and then he signed an executive order to keep the detained families together. But like I said, there's still 2,000 children that have not been reunited with their parents because of his zero tolerance policy. The American Academy of Pediatricians called the separation itself irreversible harm. Children as young as 18 months were held in tender age shelters without their parents, and caretakers were instructed not to hold or comfort the children. What the why? I just can't even. Tender age camps. Children as young as 18 months old, and the people who work there were instructed not to hold or comfort the children in distress. And it just came out recently that some detention centers run by contractors even use powerful antipsychotics on children. I repeat, it just came out that some of these detention centers are using antipsychotics on these children. Wow, that's depressing. There you go. And all I can say is don't get depressed. Just fight harder and spread the word. Please share these videos. They will be diced up into 3 separate videos eventually, and you can share them on Facebook and Twitter. And you might reach somebody. You might reach a lot of people. You don't know when you're planting a seed. You might not be greeted with tons of approval by your Republican friends, but they might watch parts of the video, and through their anger and self-preservation, they might think about it for a minute. They might consider that what I'm saying is true, because that's how the Republicans see everything. Anything we're saying is just not true. It's fake news. They might consider for a minute that this is true, and they might consider for a minute that maybe they shouldn't vote for Trump again. Or they might not, because there are a lot of people that don't give a shit, and that's none of our concern. don't waste your breath trying to change those people's minds. Don't worry too much about it. I mean, you can waste your breath, but don't worry too much about it if you can. So what we need to do is, again, just fight to get politicians in places of power who actually care about the people, about the planet, about the animals. And like I said, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritties, there are Democrats that the DNC is putting up to be the new saviors who are anything but. We also have to work really hard to spread the word to people. And I'm sorry, but if you like Kamala Harris, please take a second look. Do not prosecute Steve Mnuchin after he foreclosed illegally on thousands of low-income families because she was taking money from his bank. That's all you need to know. Moving forward, she's still the same person. So we got to get the word out. And she is like the hero right now. I went on her Instagram account the other day. Man, people love her. Love her. But I'm sure you're paying attention. We have so many good progressive candidates who are winning. And that will continue because we're fighting very hard. So I feel really bad reporting such dark news. I don't want you to think like the world is just, don't be consumed with the darkness, right? I mean, and don't become that which we are fighting. I see so much hate and violent behavior, just even on social media between everyone, Democrats, Republicans, progressives. Just try to approach things with a little bit of peace, because the energy we put out is the energy that stays out, and it's like the domino effect, right? So if we want there to be peace, if we want there to be happiness, and for violence to subside, we have to start with ourselves, you know? So I'm not trying to fill people with doom and gloom by these reports. It's just, let's be aware of what's happening on this planet so that we can do something about it. And in the meanwhile, just go forth with love. Seriously though. All right. See y'all later. What's today? Tuesday? Ooh, Thursday. What was I felt like I was doing something. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining me. Like and share, and stay tuned for more truth bombs. Bye.